This will be the last update on Cindy. This afternoon, we're going to be doing our routine weather update at 2:30 p.m., where we talk about the weekly weather update and the forecast over the next 7 days. But for right now, the good news is with Cindy made landfall as a tropical storm this morning in western Cameron Parish. It's now weakened to a tropical depression. We do have some remaining rain bands in the forecast area, so we're still looking at 2 to 5 inches of rain possible in some locations with locally higher amounts possible. The next high tide's coming in later on this morning and early afternoon, so we expect the flooded areas and communities near the coast are going to see the water levels rise again, as well as areas along the rivers and bayous that drain into the Gulf of Mexico. We've dropped the tropical storm warning now because it's no longer a tropical storm, but we are still expecting gusty winds of 25 to 35 miles an hour today, and also we'll be seeing isolated tornadoes, mainly in our eastern forecast area. We'll talk about that as we go through the slideshow here today. So here's the 10 o'clock update on Tropical Depression Cindy. Cindy now is got sustained winds of 35 miles an hour. It's moving north at 13 miles an hour. You can see it's probably somewhere between Beauregard and Vernon Parish, so it's moving well to the north. It's expected to be up in northern or northwestern Louisiana by 7 p.m. this evening, and then by 7 o'clock tomorrow morning near Memphis. So it'll be moving rather rapidly out of the area. So for us down here, the tropical storm warnings have been discontinued for our local area. Here's what the radar looks like right now. We can see, basically a small rain band that's coming into portions of west of Woodville, Texas, between Woodville and Livingston. That's going to be coming into portions of Tyler, Jasper, Newton counties. Probably an inch of rain coming out of that scenario down there. Otherwise, the larger rain band that extends from near the coast around Cameron goes up to the I-10 corridor between Jennings and Crowley, further north between Ville Platte, Opelousas, and then a little bit more ragged up around the Marksville, Alexandria area. That rain band there, and then another one that's starting to develop between south of Abbeville, New Iberia, and another one south of Morgan City. These are the focus areas where we may see another 2 to 5 inches of rain as these rain bands spiral through the area during the daytime hours today. This is a graphic that shows the rainfall in the past 24 hours. You can see that the bullseye occurred down on the Cameron coastline. That pink there is between 6 to 8 inches. But many sections of southwest and southwest Louisiana and southeast Texas had anywhere between 3 to 8 inches in the past 24 hours. Up in central Louisiana, the numbers are more like half an inch to maybe an inch and a half. And then over in south central Louisiana, the hot spot was actually probably between Lafayette and St. Martin, where they had anywhere from a half an inch to maybe up to 2 inches of rain there. The lowest amounts in the area actually are down in St. Mary Parish, where they had less than a quarter of an inch. But like I said, we got some showers developing down there right now, so that may be filling in later on today. The tides, this is what they look like right now. We're actually approaching another high tide later on this morning, close to noontime. So the tides will be going back up. You can see that this morning's high tides after midnight topped out over at Sabine Pass, a little over 4 feet. Down in Cameron, it was near 4.8 feet. We're expecting the water levels to rise again for the next few hours. And so the same scenario, tides running 2 to 3 feet above normal with 1 to 3 feet of water over land during these high tides late this morning, early afternoon, with the same locations that we've been mentioning all along. Further to our east from the Freshwater Canal and Amaretta Pass gauges, similar values. You can see that we crested earlier. We've fallen into the minimum, and we expect the tides to be rising again over there as well, 2 to 3 feet above normal, with that next high tide coming in closer to noontime. This is a map that I grabbed from the Louisiana DOTD, the LA 511 site, that shows the reported road closures associated with the flooded roads. You can see down in Cameron, they got a symbol down there, south of Pecan Island, Intercoastal City, between Lydia, Sycamore Point, Avery Island, Burns Point, Amelia, and Stevensville. Those are the spots in our forecast area. There's probably more locations that are flooded in individual locations. I know even up here in Lake Charles that we've got some spots that are probably flooded for areas that drain typically into the Gulf of Mexico, the Black Bayou and the Calcasieu River areas are running rather high in this area. More than likely the Mermentauds as well in the Lake Arthur area also. So now that we've dropped the tropical storm warning, we're going to be extending the wind advisory that we currently have in effect for our northern forecast area. The wind advisory right now covers Tyler, Jasper, Newton, and then Vernon, Rapide, Boyles, Beauregard, Allen, St. Landry, and Evangeline Parish. That's going to be extended down to the coastline. So we don't have it out yet, but that's going to be coming out. Wind advisory criteria, we're looking at 25 to 35 miles an hour is what we're expecting for that area there. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a few isolated power outages and a few trees could still be blown down. This graphic here might be a little bit difficult to see, but it's showing the wind gusts that have been reported so far today. The higher values, we got 51 mile an hour on the west side of Big Lake and Cameron Parish, 52 at the airport here in Lake Charles, 51 at Chenault. The tropical storm force winds across sections of Jefferson County, Calcasieu, Cameron parishes, Jeff Davis Parish. We actually just got a report of 40 miles an hour up at Alexandria International as well, 45 miles an hour down by Abbeville. So the numbers are on that order. I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these values go up where we're in the 20s, that it could go higher across portions of East Texas and West Central Louisiana later today. Finally, the last risk that we're going to talk about is the risk for tornadoes. The yellow shade here is the slight risk for tornadoes today. Basically, our eastern area, if I was going to draw a line, I'd say the Highway 13 corridor is the focus area for where it'd be east of that. We don't have any particular tornado warnings out right now, but we'll be monitoring those rain bands in our eastern area to see if anything develops into a tornado over there. So in summary, we are looking at another 2 to 5 inches, possibly with locally higher amounts in these rain bands that are moving through the area today. The tides are running at 2 to 3 feet above normal, which will continue that inundation of 1 to 3 feet above ground level near the coast. Slight risk for tornadoes in south central and parts of central Louisiana during the daytime today. And for the wind gusts, 25 to 35 miles an hour, which will result in isolated power outages and a few trees blown down across the area. Like I said, my plan is we're going to do the next conference call, our routine conference call that we do on 2:30 on Thursdays. So we'll be giving an update on the forecast for the next 7 days, but we obviously will be giving an update on what's going on locally, impact-wise, on the radar and whatnot as well. And that's it from me. I'm unmuting all the phone lines here to see if anyone has any questions.
The leader has unmuted your line.
Okay, we're skipping this part today. Just to wrap up, we had some traffic problems last night. We had some heavy rain in Lake Charles and Sulphur. I know Lake Charles worked a lot of, fire and police worked a lot of rescues, and Sulphur did as well, I think. A reminder, and I'll let Andy comment on this, but the tide is running, as you saw, several feet above normal. So if we get any significant amount of rain, we're going to have immediate flooding. So everybody just keep that in mind. On the power standpoint, Energy at one point this morning had about 1,500 customers out. They're down to about 500 now. 462. Okay. Beauregard had about 200 and something out up in the Moss Bluff area. Probably a lot of that's been resolved by now. I hadn't looked at the numbers lately, but that was the only other significant issue that I knew about. Does anyone have any other issues that came up that were unexpected or anything that we need to discuss before we talk about the rest of the weather? Okay. Anybody have any problems or shortfalls that they couldn't deal with? Okay. I'm going to call Andy up now to...
Okay, thank you, Dick. The first issue, of course, in the near term is actually going to be, as Dick mentioned, the higher than normal tides. We're again expecting another round this afternoon. It looks like tides around midday, perhaps early afternoon. We're going to see the water levels start coming up. I was just over at North Beach there with Sergeant Anderson, and it looked like some fairly good intrusion of water over there, and we'll probably continue to see that in those areas. The water will probably fall off a little bit, but come bouncing back up. So that's why we're going to have the coastal flood warning in effect for the rest of, well, it looks like through today. Roger will have some more updates on rainfall probably later on this afternoon. The only thing I want to mention is we have to really monitor these rain bands, even though Cindy has become a tropical depression and is continuing to move away. It's not uncommon to have, you notice on the radar, a little pinwheel effect with these bands of precipitation. A lot of these pinwheels, actually, the movement is aligned right along the pinwheel, meaning it's constant rain, and it's tropical rains on top of that. So it's no problem getting 5 inches in even as little as 2 hours. It's not unheard of. So that's just something we have to monitor locally. We just don't really, at this time, know where it's going to occur, but we think, Friday could be an ideal day for one of these rain bands to develop somewhere across the area. So that could exacerbate flooding wherever. So this is just something we're going to have to keep on top of. And even into the weekend, if locally heavy rain occurs, and it looks like our rain chances are continuing to be pretty high even into the weekend. So the flooding issue could potentially become problematic and just certainly needs to be monitored. Any questions? Okay.
Thanks, Andy. Only had one other thing. This is the first time we've used this facility for an event since we remodeled. If any of you have any feedback or comments that we could use for future events, I know it got kind of crowded in here a couple of times. We're thinking about some things we can do. So if you have any suggestions or comments about the facility or any information that you did or didn't get, let us know about it before you leave. Thanks. Brian, you got anything?
Just you may have said it, I missed it. Is there another briefing, or is this kind of?
There'll be another briefing at 2:30 today, but Roger said he's going to be back. That's a regularly scheduled Thursday afternoon briefing that we have every week. So this will be really the final Tropical Storm Cindy briefing, I think. Is that right, Andy?
That's correct. We'll probably learn a little more about rainfall, especially over the weekend. That's probably the main thing to probably take away from this afternoon's webinar.
Right. And like I said, if you have any after-action comments, please let us know about it. Thanks for coming.